Hey, it's Howard, and I'm going to cover another recipe with you. Like I said, I just like to do this in my spare time, and it's a hobby of mine, so baking is something that I love to do. You should try it, so that's the reason why I'm doing this video. But anyway, today I am going to do a sweet potato pound cake. It is so delicious. So I just want to step through all the ingredients, and then I will post the recipe in this video below, so you can follow along or you can just take the recipe, but this will give you a general idea. So like I said, let me just start the oven. We're going to go 350. Let's start that. All right, so that is preheating, so 350 degrees, and then when we do bake it, it's going to bake for about an hour. So let's get started. And like I always do, I like to start with mixing my wet ingredients and my dry ingredients separately. So we're gonna first do the wet ingredients, which include butter. This is softened butter. It is 2 sticks. And I like to just dice it up because it's a little easier to mix in the mixer here. So let's get that out the way. And then I would like to incorporate the sugar. So we're gonna go with 1 cup of brown sugar. And I'm gonna go with dark brown sugar, but you can certainly use light brown sugar. Either way is fine. So sugar. All right, I'm gonna get this started. And I'm also going to do 1 cup of granulated white sugar as well. So you have 1 cup of brown, 1 cup of white. So that will go in, and I'm gonna go ahead and start this mixture. So, all right, so we're gonna try to get that incorporated. I'll speed it up just a little bit and get that going. So one of the other things I like to do is start mixing some of my eggs together. So this recipe calls for 4 large eggs. And as you see, I have 4 room temperature eggs here. And I like to have another clear container because when I crack my eggs, I like to see if any of these shells fall in there, and then that way I can fish it out a lot easier than if it goes directly in the cake. If it goes directly in the cake, there's no way to find it, so somebody will be eating eggshells. So it's good to do this separately. So let's just crack these. Okay, so we have 4 room temperature eggs, and what I'm gonna do is put these in there. Actually, if you just drop the yolk in there, 1 at a time, let it just kind of move in and incorporate and mix and all. So then I'll just do 1 at a time. So that's 1. That's 2. I'll wait a few seconds and before I go with the 3rd one. And you see it starting to blend a lot more with these wet ingredients. Let's do another one. All right, very good. So let's get that out the way. So now I'll speed this up just a little bit so that everything can get all together. So like I said, this is a sweet potato pound cake. So the next thing that I want to add are the sweet potatoes. So I have 2 cups of mashed sweet potato. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. One, I like to boil mine and then just, once they're softened, you know, put them in a bowl and just mash them from there, and then get 2 cups out of that. It's usually about 2 sweet potatoes, roughly. The second thing that you can do is put it in the microwave and, you know, put it on your baked potato setting, and then once it's nice and soft, scrape it out, and then you'll, you know, just do it enough to get 2 cups. The last thing that you can do is just buy it out the store. You can just buy a canned sweet potato, and right out the can, you can just drain it and then mash it from there for 2 cups. All right. So I'm going to put this in next because I consider this as one of my wet ingredients. And of course, I want the sweet potato fully incorporated in the mix. So it's a good time to put it in right now. All right. So let's get that out the way. All right. So now this is doing its thing, is all being incorporated together. So the next thing that I want to do is start mixing up my dry ingredients, which I will put in with the wet ingredient. So I like to use a separate dish, and I like to use a wire whisk because this wire whisk actually helps me to break up a lot of the flour. So we're going to start with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And let's go ahead, get that in there. And I like to use unbleached. No reason why. I mean, you can use regular as well. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I just think that unbleached, you know, because I like to have the extra color in my recipe because it is a little bit of a darker cake, you know, sweet potato, so it looks rich. So I like to keep it looking as rich as possible. So let's see if we can get one more out of here. All right, very good. All right, so we'll start with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And I actually have my recipe right here because this is my own personal recipe. And I have a few notes here because I bake so much, I just sometimes want to make sure that I'm giving you the right recipe. So the next thing I'm going to use is 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. I already have that pre-measured. We're going to add that in. And then we start whisking. The other thing is that we're going to use 1 teaspoon of baking powder as well. So this helps, they both help the cake to rise and become really fluffy. The other thing, we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I'm just going to get that right out the shaker. So I'm not going to do a separate dish for that. So 1/2 teaspoon. And this is just regular table salt. So nothing fancy, just table salt. So put that in there. And then what's next? So 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. You know, cinnamon is going to be the star in this recipe. Cinnamon and sweet potato go very well together. This other thing that goes well with sweet potato is nutmeg, which we're going to add 1 teaspoon of that in here as well. So just make sure all of that is in there. All right, so I think that's pretty much all the spices. We'll get that all whisked together so that it's fully in there. So yeah, I think I've covered all the spices for this recipe. So I do have 1/3 cup of buttermilk. So I'm going to use the buttermilk once I start incorporating, and I'm going to turn this off for now. Once I start adding the dry in with the wet, I'm going to use the buttermilk to loosen it up in between. So I'll probably do half, then pour the buttermilk, do the other half, and then we'll continue. And then the last thing I'm going to add are the nuts. So we have at least, you know, about 1.5 cups of nuts, but it's up to you how nutty you want it. I mean, you could go just 1 cup or 1/2 cup, but that actually adds just a little bit of texture into the cake. All right. So I think we have covered everything. So it's all-purpose flour, it's baking soda, baking powder, salt, cinnamon, nutmeg, pecans, buttermilk, butter, sugar, brown sugar, eggs, mashed sweet potato, and I told you how to do that. So let's get this incorporated in here. So I'm gonna turn this back on. I'm gonna spoon it in. I'm gonna grab a spoon here, and I'm just gonna do it carefully so it's not all over the place, you know, because this thing can spin out of control with this dry ingredient. So, you know, like I said, I'm gonna do about half, and then I'm gonna incorporate that buttermilk just to loosen it up just a bit. And you know, since it's pound cake, you know, pound cakes are usually a little thick anyway. So I'm just going to continue to incorporate this, just maybe 1 more spoonful before I start adding this buttermilk. All right, yeah, that has loosened it up quite a bit. So I'll let that get started, and then I am going, oh, see, the oven is ready, perfect timing. So if you just turn on your oven just before you start all of this, it'll be perfect timing when this is all done. So I'll continue this, put the last little bit in there. All right, so that is out the way, so I'm gonna let that go. One other thing I would like to add though is vanilla extract, because that just food tastes so good. I mean, baking items taste so good once you add a little bit of extract, because the extract is what enhances the flavor. So anytime that you use vanilla, it just feels like a warm, you know how vanilla just makes you feel all warm and cozy. So that's what we want this to taste like and smell like. So let me just reach over and grab this vanilla extract. You can measure it out. I'm going to use about a half a teaspoon for this recipe. All right, let that get fully incorporated. And then the last thing that I want to add are these pecans. Pecans will, like I said, give you a little bit of crunch, it'll give you a little texture. So I'll just drop those in, let those mix in together. And then once this is done, this is it. I mean, that's the last ingredient. So I think what I have to do is just clean all this up and then get it in the pan for you. Like I said, the oven is already ready. So I'll show you how I spray the pan just before I put it in. And then within an hour, we're gonna have the most beautiful sweet potato pound cake. So stay tuned. All right, I am back with you. And so everything is mixed. I'm gonna take this off. And so there's two different types of butt pens that you can use. And I like to use one that's a little bit more decorative. See, this has a very decorative look. Or you could just go with the plain, you know, very clean look. So usually I use this one when I am going to do extra design, meaning that I'm going to do certain types of frostings, certain types of, you know, embellishments to it. And I use this one if it's just a standalone. So usually if I'm doing like a slight drizzle or something like that, which I plan to do here, I'm just going to do a slight cream cheese drizzle to go with this cake. Then I would use something like this because it presents well when it comes out. You will have all of these lines and details, and that's exactly what I want for this cake. But the trick that I wanted to show you is using this cooking spray. So this cooking spray has flour incorporated in it, so it makes it easy for the cake to come right out. So you don't have to grease yourself and flour yourself, it's all in one. So what I do is just like to spray this down, and it helps to get to all of those little surfaces, those detailed surfaces that I just mentioned. So therefore you don't have to worry about missing anything. So now what I want to do is just take my batter here. And like I said, it's going to be somewhat thick because this is a pound cake. So it's not going to be as light as your regular cakes. Anyway, so this is going to be a little bit stiffer than your regular cake. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour it into the pan. And what I like to do is just try to do it as evenly as possible, not in avoiding the sides, trying not to get it on the sides because I don't want it to be burned, but just pouring it right down the middle. And it's good to use a spatula too, because as you can see, the spatula cleans up the sides really, really well. So if you can get it all in as even as possible. And then of course, once it's in there, you can adjust a little bit, you know, if it's a little one-sided or something like that. So mine seems to be pretty even. So what I like to do is just take my spatula just to, you know, go around it just to make sure that there's no bubbles in it, you know, just to make sure it looks good. So get it all in there. Okay, so look, so we are ready. We are good to go. So now, like I said, we're gonna put it in a preheated oven. Well, actually it's already heated. It's at 350 degrees and we're gonna let it bake for 1 hour. Once it comes out and cools down, then I'm just gonna put a cream cheese drizzle on it just to enhance it just a little bit, and it's gonna be absolutely great. And then I'll package it up. All right, so let me get it in the oven. All right. We all set. All right, I am back and the cake is out of the oven. It is a nice golden brown, as you can see. And I tried a toothpick inside. So you just kind of push it in, take it out. If it comes out clean, then it's basically done. That's happened here. So now it's a nice, beautiful bundt cake. And so what I want to do now is just do the frosting. I've added this wax paper just in case it kind of streams off to the side. But what I'm going to use for my frosting, as you can see here, basically follow my cream cheese frosting recipe that I'm going to put the link here. It's on YouTube as well. And I use that as my base. And since this is a sweet potato pound cake, maple syrup pairs very well with sweet potatoes. So what I did was drizzle some of this maple syrup inside of the cream cheese. mixed it in. That's gonna give it a nice maple flavor. That's gonna loosen it up just a little bit too, so that we can actually frost the cake. So now it's nice and loose. And now what I wanna do now is just actually put it on the cake here. So this is not a drizzle necessarily consistency, but I wanna make sure that I cover the cake, and what it'll do, and if you do this while it's warm, it'll stream down the cake. I think I've cooled it off because I put this in the chiller for a little while. But anyway, so I just wanna make sure, and I want it to run a little bit down the side. So I wanna pile it on pretty thick. So you'll have some, dramatic effect by cascading down on the sides just a little bit. You can see it a little bit and push it just a little bit. So you can see it cascading down on the side. And that maple syrup helped to do that. So what I'm gonna do is finish this off. I'm going to box it up. Well, actually I'm gonna take some photos so you can see the finished result. And then I'm going to box it up and then deliver it to a very, very lucky person. So, all right, well, that is it with this segment. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you'll try this. It's perfect for the holidays, but it's actually perfect for any occasion. But sweet potato is always good in the fall. So that's the harvesting time. So anyway, I'm gonna let this do its thing. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you'll try this for yourself. So anyway, until next time, I will talk to you soon. All right, thanks. Take care. All right, bye.